Hello everyone, and welcome to my entry into Scott's Thoughts Pokemon Yellow Smeargle Race. I know both Smeargle and Sketch are not native to Yellow, but Scott was able to make this work and backported them in for a very interesting race with many different strategies, and today, we're going to see how fast I was able to beat Pokemon Yellow only using one Smeargle. I just want to say that with this run, I was only able to make and complete two proper Smeargle runs, while I was able to make many more attempts on Parasect, so there are a lot more mistakes in this run. Now, let's get into the run. We run into our first obstacle in the Pokemon Lab, where we have to face the rival. Smeargle is actually faster than Eevee, so the first sketch will always fail. And in my case, I would prefer that the Eevee knock me out, which is exactly what happens in this battle. I then complete my errands in Viridian, such as getting the oak parcel and returning it to the lab, and do some shopping for potions and other healing items before heading into the Viridian Forest. My goal here is to find a Pokemon, preferably a Metapod, to use Sketch on to waste the power point and train up to level 7 using Struggle so that I have an easier time versus the one mandatory bug catcher. This fight can go either way, and in this attempt, I actually get a reset here, losing due to the Caterpie using too many tackles. However, on the second attempt, it uses just enough string shots so that Smeargle can survive and defeat it with just 2 HP remaining. I then heal in Pewter to get my Sketch PowerPoint back before challenging the junior trainer in the gym. The Diglett at this point will outspeed Smeargle, so I'm able to sketch Scratch before getting a reset. This time, however, I was also able to defeat the Diglett, and I gained more experience which speeds up my training. I honestly think I should have repeated this fight, losing multiple times here to increase the speed of my training for Brock until I won the battle, before backtracking to the forest to take out all the trainers. While backtracking through the forest, I tried to fight every wild encounter as well, and one of these was a level 6 Pidgey that had my next sketch move, Sand Attack. Unfortunately for me, I was not paying enough attention and it actually used Sand Attack, but I instead used Scratch, so I missed out on my first chance for Sand Attack. I then go to face the rival on Route 22, where I manage to sketch Sand Attack from the Eevee, but I'm still defeated by him as I get hit by many growls and Sand Attack. But thanks to that, I was able to gain more experience by knocking out the Spearow more than once and defeating the rival the second time around. If you don't know, in Pokemon, trainer Pokemon give more experience than wild Pokemon, so this helps speed up my training quite a bit. I then finish off the trainers in Viridian Forest and get to level 15 before challenging the rock hard trainer, Brock. The strategy for Brock is simple. We need Sand Attacks for Onix, and since if I attack into it while it is using Bide, it would deal double the damage I dealt back to Smeargle, and Bide does not miss. I choose to use only 4 Sand Attacks on the Geodude before taking it down with Scratch and manage to have 37 HP remaining when the Onix comes out. The strategy here is to use Sand Attack 4 times at the start and hopefully see Bide early. This should allow me to get his accuracy down low and then focus on using Scratch when it uses anything else. Smeargle manages to defeat Brock with 3 HP remaining with a time of 12 minutes and 4 seconds. With Brock defeated, I head to Route 3 where I defeat every trainer except the Jigglypuff trainer and catch a Spearow before making my way into Mount Moon. I plan on exactly 1 heal in Mount Moon and fight Zubats that don't know Supersonic, as well as 2 of the bug catchers, Super Nerd, the last with an Oddity and a Bellsprout, the youngster with 2 Rattata and the Zubat, and the Rocky Grunt on the way to the fossils. In my earlier runs, I would take both from the last and use it as my main batch boosting move. However, Smeargle doesn't have the same speed problems that Parasect had and doesn't need nearly as many batch boosts to outspeed Pokemon, so I settle on another batch boosting move later in the run. I then face off against the Super Nerd and defeat him and take the superior fossil, the Dome Fossil, before facing off against Jesse and James. This battle can be tough if I've been hit with too many growls and leers, or if I've been poisoned by Poison Sting from Ekans, since Coughing is a very defensive Pokemon and can take a bit to go down. However, in this battle, I'm able to quickly defeat all of their Pokemon before things can become difficult, and make my way to Cerulean City. I heal and save before taking on the second rival fight. I'm able to easily defeat the Spearow. However, the sand attacking devil manages to hit me with enough sand attacks to the point where my accuracy was only a quarter of what it normally would be. I managed to connect enough times against the Rattata and the Eevee to somehow win the battle with 13 HP remaining. I then defeat all of the trainers on Nugget Bridge, collect the SS ticket, and defeat the Rocket who had stolen Dig. I then do some shopping before taking on the trainers in the Cerulean Gym before facing off against the second gym leader, Misty. Originally, in this battle, I tried to use Sand Attack on Staryu before knocking it out, and when I sketched Growth, I would instead use it to get the max special before defeating Staryu and moving on to Starmie, hoping it would use Bubble Beam as that was the move I wanted to sketch. This time around, I found that just using Scratch is not only faster, but can 2-hit the Staryu at my current level. Once Starmie comes out, I then use Sand Attack until it uses Bubble Beam, then sketch it before attempting to knock it out with Scratch. Thankfully, the Starmie misses enough attacks so that I'm able to defeat Misty on my first try with a time of 28 minutes and 48 seconds. I then take out the trainers above Vermilion except the Butterfree trainer, and I also take out the Gambler to the right of Vermilion blocking the path to Snorlax before heading to the SS End and taking out a few trainers before facing the rival. Smeargle easily two-shots the Spearow and the Rattata and Bubble Beam the Sandshrew. However, I accidentally used my level 31 sketch on Tackle from Eevee instead of using Bubble Beam and had to reset where I get hit by more sand attacks and barely managed to win the battle with only 5 HP remaining. I then teach Cut to Charmander and head to take on Surge. The strategy here is to use Sand Attack until Surge uses Thunderbolt and sketch it. However, we get bad luck as he continually uses an X speed, which makes Smeargle slower and have to guess if he's going to use Thunderbolt or not. I get a few resets here before finally sketching Thunderbolt and defeating his Raichu by spamming Thunderbolt since I was already out of Bubble Beams and he had already used Growl multiple times. I then dig back to Cerulean from Diglett's cave and grab the bike. I then have a run-in with the Rapping Lass where the first Oddish manages to paralyze Smeargle. However, even though Smeargle gets hit with Rap multiple times, it is able to win the battle with just 1 HP remaining. If the Bellsprout used Rap one more time instead of Growth, that would have been it. That would have been a reset. That might have even been a reset for the entire run because I don't even know if I saved before her. I then take on the hikers on the route and make it to the rock tunnel where I face every single hiker and mandatory trainer before making it to Lavender Town. I then head to Route 8 where I take out the Gambler with the fire types, the Super Nerd with Grimer and Muck, the last who has a Nidoran and a Nidorina, and I also take out the Gambler with the Poliwag and Poliwhirl before making it to Celadon City. I pick up Fly, teach it to Spearow, I do my shopping, pick up the rare candy in the Rocket Corner, and make my way to Saffron before flying to Lavender Town. Where I defeat the rival in the Pokemon Tower and head to climb further up the tower only to realize I forgot to buy the Pokédoll. So I'm forced to leave the tower and fly to Celadon to buy a Pokédoll before returning to deal with Team Rocket. The Arbok does paralyze me, but I'm still able to defeat them fairly easily, unlocking the Pokéflute. I then head to Silphco to pick up another rare candy. I also face another Rocket who has a Hypno, so I can get some extra experience and get to level 41 before collecting the card key. I then head to the Celadon Gym and face off against the first trainer where I managed to get Sleep Powder on my second try before getting another reset. I honestly should have gone to Route 15 to the west of Fuchsia and fought the wild Pokemon there for Sleep Powder. Trainers have AI so they will never use a status move on a Pokemon that already has one, while the wild Pokemon has a chance to because they randomly use moves. I could have gotten poisoned and tried to get Sleep Powder, but instead I lost a decent amount of time here. I then head to Cycling Road and accidentally end up fighting a biker and struggle to find the rare candy before finally finding it and making my way towards Fuchsia City. Once I leave Cycling Road, I take out the 3 bird keepers with Thunderbolt for more experience before making my way through the Safari Zone. I then take on the trainers in Koga's gym and level up to level 45 before using 6 rare candies to get to 51 and learn Sketch over Sand Attack. I then sketch Amnesia from the second Snorlax. This is when the run really speeds up though, as I then head to the Celadon City Gym and face off against Erica. I put the Tangler to sleep, set up 3 Amnesias, and then sweep through her entire team. After defeating Erica, I fly to Fuchsia and take out Koga, and use the same strategy of using Sleep Powder and setting up 3 Amnesia before sweeping through his team with Thunderbolt. I then fly to Pallet and make my way to Cinnabar, visit my repels along the way, and collect 2 weird candies. I dig out of the mansion, fly to Fuchsia, and collect Strength and the weird candy before facing off against Blade. I set his lead to sleep, set up 3 Amnesia, and sweep through his team using Bubble Beam. Arcanine does manage to survive and hit Smeargle with a takedown, but it still goes down easily. I then head to Saffron and take on Rival 5-0, or I would have, but the Rocket, before it actually manages to defeat me, is a bad Sleep Powder luck and confusion, making Smeargle hit itself over and over again, costing me a decent amount of time. I easily defeat that Rocket on my second try and then face off against the Rival. The strategy is the same as always. Sleep Powder, then Amnesia setup, then sweep with the best move for the specific Pokemon. Bubble Beam takes out Sandslash, Magneton, and Ninetales, while Thunderbolt is used on Kadabra and Vaporeon. I then take out Jesse and James before facing off against Giovanni, where, once more, I put his lead to sleep, set up Amnesia, and then Thunderbolt to knock out Nidorino and Persian, and Bubble Beam for Nidoqueen and Rhyhorn. Amnesia sweeping! Ha ha ha! Don't you just love Gen 1? I then head to the Saffron City Gym and take on Sabrina. Once more, we go back to All Reliable. Put the Abra to sleep with Sleep Powder, set up Amnesia, and go for the sweep. However, this time, things don't go as smoothly as the Abra wakes up, Sleep Powder misses, and it manages to hit Smeargle with not 1, not 2, but 3 flashes before it is knocked out with a Thunderbolt. The Kadabra also manages to hit Smeargle with a Kinesis, lowering its accuracy even more before going down, leaving just the Alakazam. The Alakazam, luckily for me, spams Recover and uses only a few Psychic and Psywaves before we manage to hit it with 2 Thunderbolts in a row to defeat it, leaving Giovanni as the last gym leader standing. Now, at this point, my Smeargle is at level 56. I defeat the Hiker and accidentally face one of the trainers with the Sensation Trio, who have barely managed to win with 3 HP. I then use 3 weird candies, leveling up to 59 before defeating a mandatory trainer with a Rhyhorn, and I then face Giovanni. I set his lead to sleep, set up 3 Amnesia, and sweep his team with a combination of Bubble Beam for Dugtrio, Nidoqueen, Nidoking, and Rhydon, and Thunderbolt for Persian. We did have a few issues getting some unlucky crits, but overall, the battle was easy. I then faced off against Rival 6. I set his lead to sleep, setting up 3 Amnesias, then proceed to knock it out with Bubble Beam. We put the Execute to sleep and knock it out over 2 turns with Thunderbolt. We also put the Magneton to sleep and knock it out with Bubble Beam. Knock out the Ninetales with Bubble Beam, which causes Smeargle to level up. We teach Sketch over Bubble Beam and wait for the Kadabra to use Psychic and Sketch it before knocking it and the Vaporeon out with Thunderbolt. With my moveset complete, we make our way through Victory Road, except I ran out of repels and was leaving more time to wild encounters. However, we finally make it to the league and face off against the first member, Lorelei. At this point, let's just get ahead and start speedrunning the league. We set Lorelei's lead to sleep, set up Amnesia, and Thunderbolt to sweep through most of her team. When it comes to Jinx, I put it to sleep before knocking it out over 2 turns with Thunderbolt, and the Lapras was also a one-shot with Thunderbolt. For Bruno, he's Bruno. We set his lead to sleep, set up Amnesia, Psychic Sweep. He's easy. For Agatha, we set her lead to sleep, set up Amnesia once more, and use Psychic to defeat the Gengar, Thunderbolt to knock out the Golbat, and Psychic to knock out the rest of her team. We managed to get 2 unlucky critical hits during the battle, but I did manage to defeat her handily. I save and use a rare candy before facing Lance. I set the Gyarados to sleep and set up Amnesia, and then knock it out with Thunderbolt and use Psychic to knock out the first Dragonair. I then get unlucky and score a critical hit against the second, getting hit by a Hyper Beam as retaliation. I then score a second critical hit as Lance heals before Smeargle finally knocks the Dragonair out. I defeat the Aerodactyl with Thunderbolt, and then Lance sends out Dragonite, which survives Psychic and hits a Blizzard, which causes a freeze. which is a reset, since in Generation 1, you can't thaw out from a freeze. In the second battle, the blizzard doesn't freeze and we're able to defeat the Dragonite in 2 hits, leading to a victory. I should have probably put it to sleep, but that would have been slower. Risky plays, let's go. It would have been safer at the first turn, but risky plays, let's go. Finally, we face the champion, our rival. We set his lead to sleep and set up Amnesia and then knock it out over 2 turns with Psychic due to a critical hit. We put the Alakazam to sleep and knock it out, but then we miss Sleep Powder on Executor. And with Leech Seed damage, we take a ton of damage before knocking it out. And Ninetales gets 2 quick attacks in, with 1 being a critical hit, and with my HP stat too low to knock out the Magneton, we get another reset. In the next fight, we manage to make it back to Executor, but get hit by Kinesis on Alakazam, which makes us miss another Sleep Powder, so I reset once I see Leech Seed. On my third attempt, the Sandslash dodges Sleep Powder and hits an Earthquake before we knock it out. Then we knock the Alakazam out and finally hit the Sleep Powder on Executor, and I go for Psychic since it can cause special drops, and I finally knock it out. I then put the Ninetales to sleep and knock it out over 2 turns and do the same to Magneton. The Vaporeon comes out, hits a quick attack, and I hit Thunderbolt, which scores a critical hit. So the Vaporeon hits another quick attack, and I finally hit a Thunderbolt, winning me the run in a time of 1 hour, 24 minutes, and 59 seconds. I lost close to 4 minutes due to bad luck with Lance and the rival, but in the end, I managed to win. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, share, and subscribe, and be sure to check out Scott's Thoughts channel for the full race video featuring Smeargle.